Alrighty, everybody. Welcome back to this Lost in Time story. The weird video that puts Kit up. What? That Kit puts up? Hello? Do I need more caffeine? Probably. The answer is always yes in my world. But yeah. So back to this. Um, we're on chapter 3. At risk is what it's called. And this is from Eliana's grandmother's point of view, her maternal grandmother, that is. Caroline. Caroline? I think it's Line. I don't know. Line, same person. Uh, and she is trying to figure out who is the heir for her family in particular. Who is going to lead the coven when she's gone? Who is going to be the person she's going to pass down her power and ability to? Who will assume the responsibility? And unfortunately, the person she thought it was, which was her, for the longest time, it was her eldest grandchild, but now it's, uh, Madeline is not the, eldest, that is Eliana. Um, well, Madeline isn't it, and kind of threw her for a loop. Victor is not it. Her only grandchild, her only grandboy, her only little grandbaby boy. Um, could it be Aliana? And so she and two other mothers from the other families, the deed and Montanez, I believe. So that's Susan and Evangeline, I believe. Um, yeah, so they're all coming and they break into a teenager's room. There's no way around that. They break into Eli's room. Realize there's a lot more to her than Caroline ever thought, and she's feeling a little bad right now. Granted, Eli really didn't let them in. But there's just so much there and she didn't know. So she's feeling a little bit like a failure at the moment. Um, yeah, so my lovely little check mark. So we're on the latter half of that chapter. Basically, when Eli's coming home. I was making a late night batch of cookies when the door opened and Eliana came home. I glanced at the clock, mixing the dough around by hand in my stainless steel bowl. It was 11:13 p.m. I hummed a soft lullaby and the steps paused in their journey to the kitchen. I imagined that she was hesitant to come in and get some of the leftovers I had made a habit to leave for her over the past year. Eliana, come on in, I said it quietly, knowing full well the silence of the house would carry my words to her. The steps were silent for a moment more until she made her decision and walked into the kitchen. I studied her appearance. One of the many pairs of wire-framed glasses perched on her small nose, tan complexion, the hazel eyes of the contacts she wears. She looked tired. She gave me a polite smile as she opened the refrigerator and pulled out the covered plate of homemade chicken Alfredo I had made for dinner, still slightly warm. She pulled off the plastic wrap and covered it with a paper towel before putting it in the microwave, all without saying a word and making as little noise as possible. Seeing as her shoulders were so tense, I knew she was feeling uncomfortable. I dusted the countertops with flour and rolled out the dough. Could you grab the cookie cutters? Bottom drawer to your left. She nodded, kneeling to do as I asked, and soon I had the Tupperware labeled cookie cutters by my side on the counter. Efficiency, efficiency, what? Efficiently, I finished. Oh, good lord! It's a good thing I write better than I speak. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Efficiently, I finished rolling and opened the container, grabbing one that looked like a star. I pushed it toward her, a silent offer that I disguised as a grandmotherly demand. She looked at me, allowing me to study her contacts once more, and I managed to spy the bluish tinge of the contact lens. resting on her irises just before she examined her choices and chose a dragon cookie cutter. um, oh, I see. I need to clarify that the it is the Tupperware. Okay. In silence we worked. In the background, the hum of the microwave as her plate revolved, warming up. It was a slightly awkward silence as I worked out what I was going to say. What did you say to the granddaughter you knew nothing about until a year before? Well, asking about people's days never hurt, I told myself. So I did just that. Fine. How is yours? Her voice was smooth and almost ageless, with something hidden underneath that I couldn't quite identify. I switched from a star to a crescent moon cookie cutter and began a new row of sugar cookies. She switched from a dragon to a bird in flight. She cut the cookies efficiently, leaving very little crust in between to reuse again. She had done this before. A small smile was on her lips as she looked down at her designs, eyes far away in a memory. Good. Just another Saturday. Caroline, that is a lie, and we both know it. We worked again in silence, and as I slowly was beginning to realize she either didn't like to talk or had nothing to say to me. I rolled the leftover dough out again as the microwave dinged, and she got up from the stool she had been sitting on to eat her dinner. I poured her a glass of milk, taking a break for a moment, and handed it to her. When she sat down, she winced when she saw the milk and gave me an apologetic grimace. I don't like milk. Sorry. She trailed off, a faint blush tingeing her cheeks. I didn't make a big deal out of it, glad to have something to talk about. Really? Why? I took the glass back and put it in the fridge, covering it with plastic wrap for Victor in the morning. He loved milk. I don't know. It's just too thick and tastes sort of gross and slimy. Dad never liked it either. No one in our family did. A pregnant pause permeated the air then, and I caught a tear forming in her eyes before she looked back down at her plate, collecting herself. I forced myself not to respond, but felt my own eyes water in sympathy. Do you like tea then? It's peach, I quickly said, as if nothing had been said at all that made either of us feel emotional. She quietly cleared her throat. Yeah, peach tea's great, thanks. She trailed off again, and I realized we had never talked this much, and we had never really decided what she would call me. I got the feeling she didn't want to call me Grandma. It was too soon. Carol is fine, I assured her, smiling as I gave her the glass of tea. She smiled back and nodded, taking a sip. Right. Thanks, Carol. She took another drink, this time longer. This is really good, thank you, she told me, eating some more of the pasta. The compliment left me warm and happy. There was nothing better than being a cook and having people enjoy your food. Thank you, Eliana. I beamed at her, catching her slightly off guard. It wasn't every day I got compliments on my cooking. I put the cookies on the cookie sheet and set them in the oven. Being a neat person, each of the 4 sheets had each of the 4 different types of cookie: the stars, the moons, the dragons, and the sparrows. If Eliana noticed, she didn't comment, although I didn't doubt she did. She was different from her half-siblings, never making fun, always observant. I felt her eyes study me, as mine had done to her not even 10 minutes ago. I got my own glass of tea and sat down with her, taking a sip of the cool liquid. My pile of Sudoku puzzles was near me, along with my pencil, and I grabbed one, deciding while I waited I might as well strengthen my aging mind. It was finally a companionable silence that plagued us, not an awkward one, as she ate and I did my Sudoku, both of us waiting for the cookies to be done. I already had the cooling sheets out ready to go and foil to cover them with for the night. When the oven dinged, I got up and she put her plate in the sink, rinsing it off before coming over to help me with the cookies. We both worked hard and quickly, and were done within 5 minutes. As we were covering the cookies with the foil, I looked at Eliana again. You do realize that if there is anything bothering you, or if you just need someone to talk to about, well, anything, you know you can talk to us, right? We are your family too. I said it softly, thinking it should have been said a long time ago when she first came to live with us. She froze, then crinkled the foil firmly into place and sighed, looking me in the eyes. No, Caroline, I really can't, she simply said before putting the foil up in its proper drawer. Nothing more was said because it was clear. We had all failed over a year ago. Sunday, June 21st. I woke up and my first thoughts were of last night and the conversation I had had with Aliana. No, Caroline, I really can't. It disappointed me, which was ridiculous because I was hoping she would open up when we have given her no reason to. My heart felt heavy, dismayed, because I might never have a chance to get to know this granddaughter I had been gifted with. Shaking my head, I got ready and went downstairs to make breakfast. I feel the need to clarify I am 25 now and I'm like 17 then. I don't know what's going through a grandparent's head. This was just me trying to put myself in that position, but obviously not being able to. So, like, I don't know if anybody has any feedback. By the time I'm a grandparent, this book will probably not be in my mind, or if I ever get the cojones to actually get things published, hopefully it'll be published, but I don't know. Okay. When I entered the kitchen, I was pleasantly surprised to find Eliana drinking a bottle of cold water at the counter, her chocolate brown hair up in a high ponytail, sweaty and in need of a shower. She had exercise shorts on and a tank top that showed off her pleasantly tan skin. Her forearms and biceps had muscles that her previous t-shirts and jackets had hidden. Morning, she nodded at me, hazel contact eyes giving none of her emotions away. If she was remembering last night like me, she didn't show it. Good morning. I smiled at her, then, without missing a beat, want to help me make breakfast? I'm thinking waffles and pork chops. She blinked, clearly surprised at my offer. Sure, she muttered, going to wash her hands. It was just like last night, both of us working in unison, her manning the stove and the pork chops, and me with my waffle irons and mixing bowl. Eventually, I turned on the radio and turned it to some Celtic music. I was about to tell Ayana she could change it to whatever she wanted to when Celtic Woman came on and she sang along. This is actually my mom and I were used to do this, and I miss that so much. Look how the lights of the town are shining now. Tonight I'll be dancing around. I'm off on the road to Galway now. But look how she's off on the town. She's off on the search for sailors, though there's fine fellas here to be found. She's never been one to stay at home. I am a horrible, horrible, horrible singer, but sorry I can't read this without actually wanting to sing. It's Celtic Woman. I gotta. Mm. Sorry, I had to take a drink. Very surprised, but also pleased. I joined her on with her on the chorus. Our voices blending together in perfect harmony. I am now considering skipping this little segment because, like, I don't need to be singing. Yeah. Home you go, and it's there you'll stay. You've work to do in the morning. Give up your dream of going away. Forget your sailors and go all away. Blah, blah. Freaking heck, I've forgotten how to sing this little part. I need to listen to that song again. There, you only got half of the horror. Sorry. That was how the next 25 minutes were spent. Both of us singing in harmony to many Celtic songs, having a good time. All the while the sizzle of pork chops and sweet smell of cooked waffles wafted up the stairs. Wafted, up the stairs, leading the rest of the family down. Each one of them were sleep deprived and were stunned to see us singing to our heart's content, making breakfast. The good mood in the air soon vanished, however, as breakfast was served, and Eliana tried to slip out. Stay. Stay. I gave her my best, you had better do what I say look, which didn't work very well on her, but she seemed to humor me and slipped into the seat closest to the door. Needless to say, breakfast was really awkward. No one talked. Everyone gave furtive glances at Eliana, who kept her head down and ate steadily. She was the first one done, took her plate to the sink. She disappeared upstairs, presumably to her room, and the atmosphere got better after that. Madeline started talking non-stop, and her parents adoringly listened to her. It was the picture of a perfect family. But it was only then that I realized just how imperfect we were. Ooh, that makes me just, ooh. Thinking of Aliana, I couldn't help but wonder how her family breakfasts had been and if she missed them. It wasn't until much later when I saw Aliana again. I was sitting in the front parlor with my feet curled up in hair in a casual bun, reading a good Agatha Christie novel. The kids were up in their rooms, and Ariana and Trevor had gone for a nice walk, enjoying the summer sunshine. I turned the page when I heard thunks coming from up the stairs, the clattering of feet quickly stomping down the landings. He did what? Eliana's voice carried. She was very frustrated and clearly angry. I heard her struggling with something that was banging on the rails, a bag or something of the sort. She finally stopped, and I peered up the stairs. Because it's like you can kind of see the different landings as you're kind of like looking over there from where she's sitting. She was on the phone, hair askew, jacket halfway on, and backpack finally over her shoulders. She started talking again. He's an idiot. Doesn't he know? She blew out a breath, listening intently. I could see the steam coming out of her ears from where I was sitting much further below. I watched with interest, abandoning my book. Unconsciously, I slipped on my shoes, a comfy pair of slip-on Skechers. From when Madeline forced me to go shopping with her and her friends for a makeover. The horror. But he'll get killed if he goes after it, she hissed furiously into the iPhone pressed to her ear. Killed? Worry poured out of her voice, as did the anger. She was serious. I briefly felt sorry for whoever screwed up, because I wouldn't want to be on the wrong end of Ileana in the state she was in now. She began moving again, thundering down the stairs to the first floor, still talking. Yes, I am on my way. Wait for me. You're too new to deal with this, she ordered whoever was on the other end, hitting the call button as soon as she saw me. She gave me a quick nod as she practically ran to the door, yanking it open. Be back. Be back later. Emergency at work, she called out, before taking off down the street at a brisk pace. Work? Since when does Elion have a job? Now, see, that I might, because, like, before, but then again, I guess this is now being confirmed that she has a job, whereas before, probably assuming, but, like, probably should change that. I thought to myself, eyes on her retreating figure. As soon as the door closed, I was up, hurriedly gathering my purse and my house keys. I was going to follow her, but as I looked in into the mirror, I gave myself a wry smile. But first, disguise. My eyes glowed as I began my magic, and my new makeover began. It was 5 short minutes later when I emerged from the old brownstone, now a regal raven-haired woman who was in a business suit and looked 10 years younger than my usual self. Even my eyes were now a grey hello British English, plaguing me, instead of the deep green olive O's shared. Magic definitely had its uses. In my hands was a map, a little pouch of herbs with dried blood, and secured shut were several strands of Eliana's brown hair, courtesy of the what the hell did I okay? Courtesy of the visit to her bathroom yesterday, and a crystal attached to a leather necklace. The crystals glowed slightly, the spell already taking effect. It began to move over the map of the different states, swaying this way and that faster and faster until it collapsed in Virginia. I squinted at the state, barely making out the tiny print. Washington, D.C., I said out loud, earning myself a few strange looks from some people walking by. Ignoring the looks, I turned around and began walking to the neighborhood post office. It was a short walk, only 3 blocks. The heck? Only 3 blocks, and my days out in the garden and living in a house where stairs were everywhere kept me in good shape to make the trip in under 10 minutes. When I pushed the door open, the bell dinged, alerting the older gentleman manning the counter. The store was empty, so when he looked up at me in surprise, he broke. Not only did he break into a grin, he turned my headset off. Oh, Carol, you come to give old J.D. a good long hug, am I right, eh? The thick southern accent only made his colored features that much more pronounced, dreadlocks tickling his uniform-clad shoulders. I smiled warmly back at him. Oh, you know me oh so well, Jackson David. I winked at his blithering scowl before going into his open arms. He was an old childhood friend, always older than me by 2 months, and he never let me forget it. Out of the two of us, I was always the smarter one, whereas he was ever the sneakster, always getting the cookies away from our parents while it created a diversion. Memory lane was shattered when he pulled back, and I lost his comforting scent. What brings you to my shop, hmm? His voice trembled slightly, reminding both of us of our age. I blinked, choosing to ignore him, just wanting to use the back door. You know. I gave him a sly wink, to which he smiled wryly. He nodded, backing up and holding the counter up for me to slide my way through. Well, you just go on now. You know the codes, hmm? Good seeing you, darling, he cheerily whispered as new customers came through the door, a mother and two screaming kids with lots of packages in her arms. Good luck, I whispered to him, before scurrying away through the back door and into the back rooms. I hurriedly walked down to the broom closet at the back, shutting myself inside. Technically, it was a storage room, but everyone called it the broom closet, since it was where all the cleaning supplies were. There was nothing spectacularly special about this room, except for the wrought iron doors that decorated the back wall. A big iron padlock hung on the doors, the key lost to the ages. However, not many people knew there was a different way to open it. On the doors were small, round dents, the symbols carved into them readable only to people with magic, meant for the balls hidden cleverly behind the old black and white photos framed on the wall. Eagerly I ran my hands underneath the frames, looking for the hidden cache that held one of the 4 stone balls that was perhaps a little bigger than pebbles. It fell smoothly into my hand. I repeated the process 3 more times until I had all 4 balls. Sighing, I approached the door, feeling the callous metal under my fingertips as I ran my hand over it. These symbols were all of the ancient language, meaning location, travel, danger, etc. I placed the balls into the slots and twisted them to show the right symbols. When they all glowed, I stepped back, and the doors simply melted away, showing a glowing nothingness in their wake. I held my breath and jumped daintily into it. It felt as though I was jumping into a freezing lake without the wet sensation, which ironically just made it worse. I was falling through space and time, trying not to panic mindlessly, knowing that in one moment. Ah, yes. When the floor felt solid under my feet, I knew I had made it, but I kept my eyes closed until the dizziness disappeared. When I slowly opened my eyes, I was no longer in the storage room. I was at the Government of Magical Affairs, in one of the alcoves that littered the waiting room. Since it was the middle of the day, the waiting room was busy, but I managed to squeeze in. The crystal world showing early I had been here recently. Interesting. Now just get in. Yes, I need to speak to a detective. I swear I just saw a wanted dark fae strolling down the street in New York. We can't have such dangerous criminals walking the streets. I muttered the last sentence, playing the part of annoyingly suspicious yet caring citizen fairly well. The woman gave me a polite smile, slipped me a visitor's pass, and waved me on through. I gave her a conspirator's wink, then blew out of breath as I was shepherded through with the crowd, down the hallway into the large room with the elevators. Now for the hard part. The crystal was still active, but it would lose the trail soon with the different levels. I got in line, waiting for a free elevator, and was right behind some nice gentlemen who gossiped a bit too loudly for their own good. I got the spill on the latest flings in human resources, the cutest chicks who would shift down in the hospital ward, their jerk of a manager down in treasury, they used expletives that gentlemen should never use in public, and one of their latest breakups. I was about to move just to get away from the blabbermouths when they mentioned something very interesting. Yo, dude, so have you heard about that keeper chick? What's her name? Elsa? Something. Whatever. It's Bishop. You know who. That super hot brunette who works down in Sublevel C in DOD. Oh, yeah. Man, I'd totally bang that girl. She's a hottie. His companion smacked his shoulder, shaking his head. Nah, dude. That's what's so special about her. She's underage, and the best in that department, from what I hear. I don't know what they do down in there, but she practically runs that place from what I hear. They say she's a dragon in a fight. I would totally love to see her in a fight if that's true. They both sighed before it was their turn, and they left with my ears ringing with the bits of info I just gleaned. When the elevator opened its doors, I got into it and hit Sublevel C from the many buttons available. I kept to myself and pocketed the crystal, which was limp now. The elevator filled with people quickly, most of whom knew each other, speaking in Swedish, which I only just recognized. 5 minutes later, and the elevator doors opened, which I exited. I was the last one in the elevator. I pulled the crystal out and it started going. I turned right and would have kept going if not for an officer who was passing by and saw my visitor's pass. No, ma'am. Ma'am? No visitors are allowed down here. You're looking for upper level 3. Let me just escort you. Anger flashed through me, but I reined it in. It was simply not meant to be. Yeah, you have to have a better pass than that to get into DoD. I'm sorry, sir. I just got lost, I think. You said upper level 3? But what's down that way? Department of Diplomacy, ma'am. Unless you have a problem with a dangerous object, but you're only cleared for 3rd floor. I blinked. Department of Diplomacy. I followed the gentleman back to the elevator, my mind trying to figure out this mystery. I was curled up in the front parlor on the couch, pad and paper in my hands. I had no idea what to write. What could I write that would be meaningful for Eliana? A quote, but which one? It had to describe something. Something that would prompt her to answer, or at least give me something to work with. My eyes traveled over the bookshelf, examining the titles of the old scripts. My hand began to write of its own accord, thoughts unseen flashing through my mind. Before I knew it, time had passed, and I was finished. Perfect timing, too, as Eliana walked in, looking worse for wear. Glasses knocked askew on her face, her clothes covered in flecks of dried red liquid which I didn't want to think about. She had a nasty scratch on her cheek that was bleeding, and her eyes were red from exhaustion. Eliana, what in hell happened? I asked, disturbed. I never cursed, but I reserved it for times like these. She jumped and turned to me, wincing. Problems at work. I fixed it, though. An idiot did something he wasn't supposed to. He'll be all right in a couple of days. I patted the cushion beside me, and she hesitated before reluctantly sitting on the edge, poised to leave in a hurry should the need arise. I chose my words carefully, looking at her straight on. Eliana, sometimes people do things, whether it's for the right or wrong reasons. Every choice has a consequence, although we may not see them until much, much later, when they have already passed. Sometimes the only thing we can do is move on and accept it, and ourselves. I handed her the pad of paper, which she looked at confusingly. This is where we switch to Eli's point of view. Eyebrows furrowed at her speech. I was perturbed at where this was going. So imagine my surprise when I see letters of an ancient text I had seen little of in my many years of working for the DoD. I knew she suspected something of my magic, but I wasn't quite ready to give it up yet. They hadn't earned the right. I tried to move my eyes away from the text, which I quite clearly couldn't read, but my left eye wouldn't budge. It seemed glued. I began to panic when all of a sudden the letters moved. They transformed, slowly, but the strokes fixed themselves upright, moving this way and that. It seemed like forever, but it was only for a second or so. It was a series of quotes. A secret's worth depends on the people from whom it must be kept. The best way of keeping a secret is to pretend there isn't one. Do nothing secretly, for time sees and hears all things, and discloses all. Sophocles. The last quote sent chills down my spine. I knew what it meant. How many memories had I entered, finding the secrets that people never wanted to be unearthed? Was that really what I was doing? I had sworn to myself never to keep a secret that would ruin me or give me consequences later in life. Yet I was doing just that, it seemed. I grew angry. Why are we playing this game? I asked Caroline softly, daring to look her in the eye. She was like a black cat, too curious for its own good. Not that I would do anything. I knew all about cause and effect. Karma. It had a fickle way of doing things. Sometimes it backfired on you. She looked surprised and also relieved. Why would that be? What game are we playing, Eliana? I took a nice, slow breath, fighting back the boiling anger and the rising tide of other that was coming. You bloody well know, I told her quietly, putting the pad down none too gently on the coffee table before walking out of the parlor, leaving her gaze fixated on my retreating back. I was done. I had almost a year in this house, and then I would be gone. Somewhere, traveling with Eileen or my grandfather, anyone, anywhere but here. I hated my mother. Memories unbidden welled in my eyes. A 6-year-old Eli waiting for a mother that would never show at the mall, year after year. Waiting for a letter, a phone call, sad each time her birthday came around because she got her hopes up. Not even an acknowledgement that I existed. When I turned 8, I threw myself into training with a passion, ignoring that side of my heritage, the Laveau side. That magic had a mind of its own and loved to create chaos. I just learned how to lock it in a box and throw away the key, never to think on it again. My dad was my hero, and now that he was gone, I felt more lost than ever. Exhausted beyond wear, I opened my bedroom door and dropped my stuff on the floor to go take out my contacts that were killing my poor eyes. Washing my hands before handling my eyes, I looked in the darkness, expecting to see hazy shadows in my reflection. Not a person other than myself. I shrieked and jumped back, spraying water all over myself and the floor. I flicked on the light, and there she was, a reflection in the glass, right beside me. Someone I had only ever seen in textbooks. Marie Laveau. Ooh, I kind of forgot that chapter was a little longer than I felt like. I don't know, like, I remembered the scenes. I didn't realize that I put it all into a chapter. Kind of reflecting, I do like a lot of it. Um, just certain things kind of need to be explained a little bit more, I think. Like, how she knew to go to GOMA, Government Magical Affairs. Although that I'm reading that, I'm thinking now my thought process was she could get into the waiting room and then exit to the street level, because you can actually do that. Um, and that's an easy way to get to Washington, D.C. Um, and then like the quotes and just trying to figure out what to say. I don't know. It's just like, really, what do you say in that sort of situation? The entire situation is messed up. Her family is Eli's family, her on her mom's side, is really just drama and so much there that she personally doesn't wants nothing to do with. And it's hard, I think, if you're someone who's trying to reach out. But Eli has a lot of anger towards her mother, and of course she never knew really about the others in the family. She assumed, but she didn't want to think on it. Basically, since 8 years old and onward, she just tried to pretend her mother never existed. Now she has to live in that house, and she absolutely hates it. So I think that makes it harder on Caroline, who now is trying to reach out, but there are selfish reasons for it. There's this whole responsibility to the family and to the coven, and Eli wants nothing to do with it, but she does also want to get to know Eli. It's just, how do you go about it? How do you break through to that angry teenager you know very little about? And Eli was incredibly angry and grieving when she came here, and she still is. It's just now that razor sharp edge has worn off just a little bit. So yeah. Yeah, that was chapter 3, At Risk. Um, yeah, I hope you guys liked it for whatever it was worth. I guess I'll see y'all next week for chapter 4, Choice. Yeah. Oh dear. Anyway. Um, yeah, thanks for listening, watching, what have you. Hopefully I get good progress on the fuzzy blanket that is from hell that I'm making my mom for Christmas. Uh, because I can't see the stitches and it sucks. It sucks to work with it. It's great and it's fuzzy, but I can't see the stitches. Therefore, I have to do it by feel, and that's just a nightmare in of itself. But anyway, yeah, I will see you guys next week. Thank you for watching, I guess. I know I just said that. Sorry, I'm nervous. I'm going now. Bye. Have a great week.